You ever look at some websites and think, man, they just get Google. It's like they're speaking its language perfectly. While other sites, they just get totally lost in translation. Well, it all comes down to one thing: clarity. Think of your website like it's telling a story. If that story is sending out mixed signals, Google just gets confused. And your audience? They'll never find the plot.
So let's just ask the big question right up front. Is your website confusing Google? You might actually be surprised by the answer. A lot of the time, the biggest SEO problems aren't about trying to game some super complex algorithm. Nope. They're usually just simple, basic miscommunications that are surprisingly easy to fix once you know what to look for.
And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to break down the 5 most common ways that websites send these mixed signals. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to turn all that confusion into crystal clear communication so Google finally hears what you're trying to say, loud and clear.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big idea of just making your content clear. Then we'll dive into mastering your headings. After that, we'll tackle those pagination nightmares. Make sure you're winning on mobile and stop your own pages from, well, eating each other. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the one simple rule you really need to remember.
So let's start with the big picture. I want you to think of your website as having this constant conversation with Google's crawler, Googlebot. That bot's whole job is to read and understand your site. So your job? It's to make that conversation as simple and as direct as you possibly can.
And that's really the key thing to get here. The stuff we're about to talk about isn't some list of technical chores to check off. And it's definitely not about trying to trick the system. Think of it more like the basic grammar of Google's language. You get the grammar right, and your message just comes through perfectly.
First up, let's talk about your page's blueprint, the headings. Yeah, the H1s, H2s, H3s. They are not just there to make the text look pretty. For Google, these headings are like the architectural plans that explain exactly what your page is about and how all the information is organized.
Now, if you only remember one single thing about headings, please make it this. A single page on your site should be about one main topic. And because of that, it gets exactly one H1 tag. That's it. It's the absolute golden rule for clarity.
And just look at the difference here. On the left, men's waterproof hiking boots. It's natural, it's focused, it tells you and Google exactly what this page is about. But the example on the right, buy shoes, cheap shoes, that's just spammy keyword stuffing. Google is way too smart for that these days. It just sees that as a bunch of noise.
This hierarchy is just everything. Seriously, think of it like a book. The H1, that's the title of the entire book. Your H2s, those are the chapter titles. And the H3s are the subheadings inside each chapter. When you follow this structure, you're basically handing Google a perfect, easy-to-read outline of your content. So, because of that, you have to avoid these common mistakes. Having multiple H1s, that's like giving a book 2 different titles. Makes no sense. No H1 at all? Well, now the book doesn't even have a title. And using the same H1 on different pages just forces them to compete with each other, totally confusing Google about which one is the real expert on the topic.
Okay, so let's take that same idea of clear structure and apply it to pagination. Imagine a category page on your site is like a library. Those little page 1, 2, 3 links at the bottom, that's your card catalog. It's what organizes everything. But if that catalog is a mess, Google gets completely lost trying to find all your books.
Oh man, this is such a common mistake. Your main category page should have one URL, period. But so often, a second version with page equals 1 at the end exists at the same time. To Google, that looks like 2 identical pages. It's a classic case of duplicate content. The fix is simple though. You just have to redirect that second version back to the original. And this one is huge for modern websites. Look, as users, we love infinite scroll, right? It's so seamless. But for Google, it can be a total dead end. If the crawler can't find an actual clickable link to get to page 2 or page 3, it just assumes that content doesn't exist. It literally becomes invisible.
So how do we solve this? We use something called a canonical tag. It's just a little piece of code that acts like a signpost. For all those paginated pages, it often points back to the main category page. It's basically telling Google, hey, all these numbered pages are just little slices of a bigger collection. This main page is the one you should consider the master copy for ranking.
Okay, time for our next big reality check, mobile. And listen, this isn't just some trend anymore, it's the default. Google now operates in a mobile-first world, which means if your site isn't designed to work great on a phone, it's pretty much designed to be ignored.
It really is as simple as this. Google now judges your entire website based primarily on its mobile version, not the desktop one. So if your mobile site is clunky or broken, your SEO performance is always going to have a ceiling, no matter how amazing your content is.
And these are the exact kinds of frustrating experiences that Google looks for. You know, when a user has to pinch and zoom just to read something, or they try to tap a button but hit the wrong one because they're too close together. That sends a really negative signal. Google sees that frustration and translates it into, this is a low-quality page. Fixing this stuff isn't just about design, it's core SEO.
So all of these issues create confusion for Google. But what happens when your site starts confusing itself? Well, that brings us to one of the most damaging problems out there, content cannibalization. This is when your own pages start competing against each other for the exact same search term, and they end up eating your own rankings.
And the problem nearly always starts with duplicate text. It seems like such a minor thing, but it creates major confusion. When Google finds 2 or more pages on your site saying basically the same thing, it has to guess which one is the real authority, and it might just guess wrong. The result is pure chaos. Your rankings can become super unstable, bouncing up and down as Google keeps swapping which page it decides to show. And even worse, any authority your site has built up, all those valuable ranking signals get split between the competing pages. It just makes both of them weaker than one strong, consolidated page would have been.
So, we've walked through headings, pagination, mobile, and duplicate content. Now, all these technical fixes might seem like separate things, but they all point back to one single unifying goal.
And this right here is the ultimate takeaway. The goal is not to be technically perfect. It is simply to be understood. With every single decision you make, from a heading tag to a mobile layout, the only question that really matters is this: does this make my message clearer for both my users and for Google? Because at the end of the day, clarity is the most powerful ranking signal there is.
So, I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. Based on everything we just covered, what is the one thing you could fix on your site today to make your message just a little bit clearer? Find that one thing, and I promise you're already on your way to speaking Google's language a whole lot better.